A few years ago, two professors from Princeton, Professor Alan S. Binder, Princeton economics professor, as well as Professor Mark Watson, they came out with the definitive report. They looked at, I think, 12 different presidents, six Democrats and six Republicans, or maybe eight of each. I don't remember exactly how many. And they did it sequentially, right? And it turns out that the economy does substantially better, out of the margin of error, better under Democratic presidents than it does under Republican presidents. Now, they looked at all kinds of factors, and when it comes to under Republicans, we had certain things like certain types of shocks, so they had to discount for those. So they're saying Republicans just got unlucky with some of these shocks, right? And that's understood. But they said that only explained about between 42 and 60% of the delta, the 2 points or so better that the economy does under Democrats. So it only accounts for a few. The professors, after they've found that the luck part could only be attributed between 40 and 60%. And by the way, I don't even call that luck, because the rest of the world knows who's president of the United States. They know how to act based on who's president of the United States. They know how to spend based on who's president of the United States. And if they think things will go better, of course, an economy which has some psychological factors in there as well would do better. And that's the reason the economy does better under Democrats than Republicans, not only because of policy, but because of expectations and all of that. The professors proved that. You know, their study, their analysis is great. It came out with the correct results. The problem is, when it came for them to write a conclusion, they decided to edge. They didn't want it to seem partisan, so they said, well, we can't explain exactly why it is that Democrats do 2 percentage points. That's huge. 2 percentage points in the aggregate over Republicans when they are in charge. I want you to listen to the interview between one of the professors and Chuck Todd way back yonder. And then this is a part of a blog post that I wrote with some excerpts from the actual analysis that they've made. It's clear to me the reasons why. I am sure these very intelligent economists from Princeton, they also know the answer, but they also know that they want to ensure they don't seem too partisan. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
According to a new analysis paper by economists Alan Blinder and Mark Watson, it's not policy or politics. More often than not, they say it's simply dumb luck. And most of the time, it ends up favoring the Democrats. The paper examines how the U.S. economy fared under 12 presidents, all the way back to Harry Truman. What they found was that generally, Democratic presidents were in charge when the economy was doing the best. You can see Truman, Kennedy, Johnson, and Clinton stand out on the chart. Interesting to note, Carter's numbers are probably better than you realize because GDP growth was good at the time. His problem, of course, was inflation. Now, Reagan's numbers are probably worse than you remembered. Don't forget the start of his presidency was clouded by a severe recession. Now, overall, the economy grew at a rate of more than 4% under Democrats and 2.5% under Republicans. It's a pretty dramatic difference. But why? Well, Blinder and Watson looked at a number of possible factors, and they came up with 3 big ones. Number 1, oil shocks. The spike in prices in the early 70s hurt Nixon and Ford, and a 3-fold increase in prices did huge economic damage under George W. Bush. The second big factor, productivity. Surges in productivity helped Kennedy and Johnson, while a drop in productivity hurt Reagan. But the paper concludes, quote, these look a lot more like good luck than good policy. Now, the third big factor is simply consumer confidence. But the paper argues that may be a self-fulfilling prophecy. In other words, quote, consumers correctly expect the economy to do better under Democrats and then make that happen by purchasing more durable goods. So in fact, Blinder and Watson describe all three as luck factors that seem to happen randomly. So what about the policy? What about defense spending? What about Congress? The paper finds they may play small roles, but that they are more or less insignificant when it comes to determining why Republican presidents seem to get the fuzzy end of the economic lollipop. But the researchers admit the three luck factors can only explain about 60% of the gap. They say the rest remains, for now, a mystery of the still mostly unexplored continent. As somebody who studies these things, in your belief in statistician, when do you think this trend is a fact, is a provable fact? Because sometimes you look back, and I always say that even we've had 57 presidential elections, and you know what? That's actually not enough examples to say this is always the way it happens, this way or that way.
Now, always is too strong, but think of it as coin flipping. At some point, if you're flipping a coin enough times, you may discover it's an unfair coin. It's not actually coming up 50-50. So the question is, how many flips do you actually need before you can reach a conclusion like that, a probabilistic conclusion? And we could. I mean, there are standard statistical tests for that. And the likelihood that this large gap, you showed it on the first graph in the setup piece, was happening purely by chance, like coin flipping on a fair coin that just didn't come up 50-50, was under 1%. So all right, that was good enough for us.
Good enough to put it in the for Princeton. All right, sir. Alan Blinder, thank you. Very interesting report, and I bet you there will be more research built upon it. Thank you very much.
Now, again, I listened to the professor, and it's a bit upsetting because he says if it were just a coin flip and it's only 1% that says the results that they got, that the economy does better under the Republican president, under Democratic presidents, it somehow can be attributed to luck when it's something that happens all of the times, which would be saying that luck is always on the side of Democrats. The professor is smarter than that, but you understand that he's watching his right flank. After all, he doesn't want to get on the negative side of one political party when one has to say the economy always does better under Democrats. And yes, it's policies. A policy that favors the average American citizen, even in the current capitalist economic structure, because of the speed of circulation of money and who you are biased for, the American people, that will give you a more vibrant economy. That is how economics work. These professors know that. And their conclusions said that. Or rather, the results of the research said that. Now, when it came to expressing the conclusion, they did say it's not chance. Yes, the economy does better under Democrats. But maybe it's luck plus something else we don't know. Of course it does better. And it does better because of policy, middle-class centric policies, better on one side than the other. Not as good as it should be, but better. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.